You guys can turn on your microphones. Okay. I'll call this meeting to order. This is Town Council special meeting for Alpine, Wyoming. First order of business is we'll do a quick pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Assisting Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilman Burchard. Here. Councilman Castillo.
Here.
Mayor Green.
Here.
Councilman Dickerson.
Here.
Councilman Larson.
Here.
Mayor Green, you have a quorum of the council with all members present.
All right, thank you very much. I'd entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the first thing, only thing we have on the action items tonight is the catering permit for Rocky Mountain Rogues, Bull Moose Saloon. Do we have a motion to get it on the table?
Motion to approve the catering permit for Rocky Mountain Rogues, DBA Bull Moose Saloon.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Castillo, you brought up a good question. Would you just bring that up?
Yes, so the location of the sales, the service of wine and a reception is going to be at a Presbyterian church in Jackson, Wyoming. So I just wanted to understand the authority of us issuing them a liquor license permit.
So, you are the license holder, that we're the licensing agent for, the Bull Moose. And so we have to give them permission to be able to, do an event outside of
Okay.
our jurisdiction.
sense.
And so, through this process of them coming in very, late, last minute, and not being able to get on a agenda, Sarah and I did review the legalities about it. It seems like previous, for several years, what they've done is they've had them fill out this catering permit application to have an event outside of this jurisdiction. However, the law doesn't necessarily require that. The law just requires that they get permission from the governing body to do so.
Okay.
So we stayed with that, but I think we're going to look at it and try to find just a simplified way maybe to do that moving forward, because a lot of them cater events up in Jackson.
Right.
And it seems like a lot of extra work. Do you know what I mean? To have a meeting when they have a license in good
every time.
when they have a license in good standing. So her and I are going to work on that and try to find something that will, in the future, make it less
little
of a
more
process for them.
simplified.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I don't have a problem having a meeting on it, but it's just, I would like for it to be on a regular meeting, so they need to plan ahead.
Yeah.
But this has come up in the past. I recall,
Yes.
it may even been this time last year, this similar thing.
Yes.
With this exact same application. So, any other comments, questions regarding that? If there's no further comments, all those in favor of approving the catering permit for Rocky Mountain Rogues, DBA Bull Moose Saloon, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And that's all we've got on there. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion, it's been seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion carries. That meeting is adjourned. Thank you for hanging in on that. I will now call to order the work session, Town of Alpine. This is December 3rd, 2024, and we are happy to invite the members of the Charter School Board up. Go ahead, you guys, and take your seats up front. Thank you. So we wanted to invite the Charter Board. Let's make sure we get microphones for them as well. Do we have? Thank you. Yeah, you're on now. If you want to shut up, hit the button. But we wanted to invite the Charter Board members, and we came up with a bunch of questions, a couple pages of questions, and they were kind enough to take those questions and hopefully put them in a presentation. Yeah, this is really a fact-finding thing. At the end, we'll kind of open it up to some public comments. But in general, I want to have an open dialogue conversation with you guys and town council members, and then anything we don't handle at the end, maybe people in the audience can help answer those questions. But if you don't mind introducing yourself for the record.
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Meredith Leonard. I'm on the Charter Foundation Board, which you'll learn a little bit more about in a minute. I'm a member of the community and a mom of 2 young kids who I plan to enroll at the school.
Dave Jenkins, most of you guys know me. I'm the chair of the Alpine Charter School Board, and excited to be here tonight.
And my name's Jeff Darty. I'm a former member of the Charter Board during the application process. I've since been replaced on that board, and now I'm a lowly consultant.
But, we're familiar with Jeff from his times helping us through this whole process. So, anyways, with that being said, I'll let you take over, whoever
So
wants to
I'd like to start.
Yeah.
And first of all, Mayor, Council, thanks very grateful for us being here tonight and able to work with you guys. And this is exciting. This is 30 years in the making. We're nearing the. We have a long ways to go. We have a lot of work to do, but it's, we can see the daylight here, and we've never been this close. There's no gift greater to the kids of this community than an education. Anyways, we've been to these meetings. You guys have been to them. We've seen the support. The amount of people that are excited about this school is unbelievable. I know we have a few people that aren't quite as excited, but we're focused on the excitement, and we're really hoping this is a positive workshop with solutions. We are excited about that. I have friends that moved here and had kids, and then they moved away because there's no school. And I'm really hopeful that those days are over, that people are moving here with their families, and we're going to recruit a new blood of people that volunteer in this community that are excited to be a part of this community. This is our only path I see in the next 10 to 20 years of us having a school. We can't mess this up. This is our chance to make this happen. And it's going to take all of us. It's not just our group that can do this. We're going to need the town. We're going to need the community. We need the support. And this is not going to be a perfect day one experience. But it will improve. It will get better. It will be an amazing school. So we're super excited. Anyway, with that introduction, I'm going to introduce Meredith. You guys just met her. She's going to take some talk for a minute about a few things. So.
Thank you so much for having us here tonight, and obviously it was great to work through your questions. I think one of the biggest things that stood out to us is that we are thinking about the same things, which is great, and so we're looking forward to the opportunity to address a lot of those. But I was really thinking the last couple of days about why am I here specifically, and why are we here? Taking time away from my kids, obviously hoping to invest in their future. So I really just started to think about, we're not just talking about land or a building. We are talking about a vision for a community that brings opportunity and the prospect of prosperity. One of the things that stood out to me during this process was we had doctors stand up, we had business owners stand up and talk about what they could bring to the community if they only knew where to send their kids to go to school. We aren't just talking about a school or a curriculum. We are talking about a foundation for the youth of our community, a foundation that guides Throughout history, schools and educational institutions have evoked the transcendentals, has strayed from these teachings in both curriculum and architecture in schools. Schools have become institutionalized and banal. The American Preparatory Academy curriculum challenges these current norms, and I believe revives what I just wanted to kind of quickly bring notice to the mission that we kind of sat down and put together, state-of-the-art education to children of Alpine and surrounding areas. Our vision is a beautiful. So the goal of this workshop tonight, we really just wanted to start a conversation table tonight with vision is the land, as everything that we do will respond to that. So we hope to address some of the questions as a part of the process, outline our approach to the design process, and then share our vision for future goals of the town land and its mutual use. And as Dave touched on, we really realize that this has to be a collaboration with the town of Alpine. And so we intend to approach the table that way.
All right, so so one of the questions that was asked about, okay, who is our boards, and do we have we have two different boards, two different nonprofit entities we're talking about. Alpine Education Foundation, the land and the building, and it would have the lease with the town and have 3 members. We're hoping to grow that. Rob Hagedorn has volunteered to be on that board. Meredith Leonard, which you've met. Mike Mueller is also a local resident in Alpine and is going to help us on that board. On the and there's, at this point they've not elected officers. It's just 3 members on the board. The Alpine Charter School Board is not a public board. It's pending a state contract, so it's a private board until we have a state contract. So at this moment in time, it's a private board.
We're not a public entity yet.
Not a public entity yet, correct.
And does that mean that you're not required to have public meetings?
So at this point in time, we don't follow the same, maybe Jeff can elaborate on that more.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. That's a great question and one that we didn't know the answer to, so we put it to legal counsel, and they came back and told us that, they have 90 days from the date of our approval, which was in October. So we expect to have a contract wrapped up in January or perhaps before. So at that point, we become a public entity, just as this is, and subject to all the same noticing requirements that this.
Open meeting laws, all those
Absolutely.
different things.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so Shackelford, she's not here tonight. She is home, very sick.
Yeah.
So she's watching online. She's the vice chair. Melinda Darian, I'm not sure she made it. Is she here?
I saw her walk in.
There she is. And Amy Weirda is another member on the board as well. So that's our current board. As far as one of the other questions I had about the school, it was part of our criteria that wanted to help and be involved. And basically, they've come to us and asked, how can they help? They're super pumped about this opportunity, and we brought them in. And we will also be looking for, part of our state requirement is to have, they wanted us to get at least one more member with a K through 12 background to add to our board, and we're currently looking for those people. If someone's excited and wants to be a positive part of this experience, we would be interested in talking to them.
On which board?
On the school board.
Okay.
And how many members are you going to have of the Alpine Education Foundation?
I think
I think we can go to 7 or 9, but
Okay.
right now it'll.
as far as that selection process, that's also, maybe you can help me with that too again,
Sure.
that private.
Can say that the board will select the members of that board. So presently there are 3 interested candidates can submit letters of interest to that board, and then that board makes the selection.
Hence, that we have a contract with the town, that the town would be able to select a member for that board. So the town, you guys could pick someone.
That'd be nice.
The town would be, that you guys would have a representation on that board.
Right, I think that's appropriate.
Yep. So the bylaws at this point in time, we have some draft, working through the details on that, and we don't have a draft. We should have a draft for the charter school in the next, we've applied for a 501c3, but we don't have either of those yet.
The IRS is very customer-focused and efficient.
Yeah, exactly. So from here, I'm gonna let Jeff kind of talk about the contractual relationships he's been involved with, so.
Sure, if you don't,
Thank
I
you,
know you
Mr.
have a booming voice, but I want to make sure we.
Boards, as I indicated just a second ago, they're in the process of getting a contract ready for us. You'll recall that there were 2 applicants for the 1 charter school slot, one of which was denied. So they first spent their time writing the denial letter for the other charter school. Vitalis, that was not selected exactly. So now they've just this week started focusing on our application. We have a meeting with our legal counsel tomorrow on my drive home. So we have a meeting with them tomorrow to go over the conditions. Our application was approved with 4 conditions, and so Charter School Board is happy. As I indicated a second ago, we think that worst case, that'll be approved in January, but
The
Conditions.
The conditions.
I can.
At some
Yeah,
point.
I can pull those up in
Thank
just
you.
a sec, yeah. Legal entity, then we'll enter into a contract with APA, and at regular intervals, when it makes sense, we'll come back and report out to the town so that you're aware of where we're at and
Give us,
them.
a monthly report. That's the advantage of having someone.
And a quick note to the Alpine, scan the QR code, that's gonna be it's just getting started now, so we'll put the,
Okay.
so.
And yes, eventually there will be like an FAQ.
Okay, so, one of the series of questions asked about enrollment, as we indicate in our application, we anticipate opening with as few as 90, but we really anticipate there being about 270 students. We've designed the school to accommodate about 300 students, but if we find that there's stronger support than that early on, we can implement and respond to that during the design phase and potentially capture a few more. But right now, what we're planning for is that 90.
Before you go on, are you moving on to projected enrollment? Are we going through, we had detailed dissolution plans, if not outlined in the bylaws, of your,
They're gonna talk about it, I think, right? That's your plan?
What was your question? I'm sorry.
oh, no, so under our entity information, we had contracts, board of directors, then we also had detailed dissolution plans, if not outlined in the bylaws. I just wanted to make sure if
Could
that
you-
was covered in
Sure,
another
can you
section.
explain what your question is there? We weren't really sure what that meant, I guess.
It wasn't one of mine, so I will do my best. Any risks to the town of Alpine, so during the contractual agreements, if there's any type of default, if the school's not a success, I'm assuming that,
Legal counsels would help protect the town with our contracts. That'd be something that we would negotiate in the lease. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have your legal,
I think the bigger question that I've heard from a lot of people in the town is, I think they want to understand how happens if the worst possible scenario, something goes wrong, who owns it at that point?
I still have to work through that. We don't have that answer at
Yeah.
this moment. I mean, you guys are basically gonna be the ones setting the rules that we're gonna have to follow. And I think that will be with your legal counsel in part of the
Yeah.
contract.
I don't think it's cut and dry either, and we've been doing our research on our end.
All hands are gonna have to help out here. It's not gonna be us, us making this happen. We're doing this for the community. We're doing this for, so we're hoping that you guys are gonna help us figure this
Yeah.
out together and we can solve this together. So,
yeah, I second a lot of the concerns that I heard was using the land as collateral hands, and I think that's something that will.
Want its land at RIT. So that's what we're gonna have to have our legal counsel and your legal counsel work through in order to come. I can tell you there are lots of examples. The school is gonna be the task.
Okay. I just, as much as you can.
I think we're having some,
Technical difficulty?
from Dave, and Dave's reaching out to
Okay, great.
Yes,
With-
the tech team is on.
The nice thing is we have it recorded here, so we can post the audio of it if it's as normal.
Okay, so as I indicated, we anticipate a design that will accommodate approximately 300 students. For those of you who have struggled to sleep and have read our application, you'll see that we did do some preliminary, Lincoln County School District did. We based it on a survey that understand where kiddos lived in the community and how many per grade within a certain boundary lived within that boundary. So based on that, we arrived at this is a process, right? So After we get our charter, that's when we would engage in a full-blown enrollment study, and we'd have a lot better idea at that point.
I think that's necessary.
Do you have some anecdotal information, like number of people that just have reached out with
Committed
support?
their children.
Not even a full commit, but just basically like you've gotten dozens of emails.
In speaking with Carolyn, and I speak with her on a weekly basis, Carolyn does indicate that she gets regular check-ins from parents who, based on the 2 hearings that we had, that this body was a part of, that I saw widespread community support. But I'm actually fearful that our problem will be room, not reaching minimum enrollment numbers.
Yeah, that'd be a
That's
good
my
problem to
fear.
have, what the demand is for the school. So at some point, I think we really have to put it into overdrive and figure out how many kids are ready to sign up. How many parents are willing to sign their kids up?
Well, and I talk with a lot of moms, and I cannot tell you how many people have asked me, it is very difficult for people to think about upending their child. Reasonable, really get the land identified and solidified. We can work on a beautiful design that's going to inspire people to send their kids to the school, that we haven't truly been given the opportunity just based on time and holidays, and moms are busy. Talking to moms, what come in order for me to look at them in the eyes and say, look.
Okay. Ready for the next slide, I think. Okay, so I can tell you that this whole process has been entirely funded by easy and fairly straightforward, but it's a very legal, it's a very technical $5,000 a month. We expect that to slow down. Subsequent to that, then you get into the design process, and design is not cheap either for the school. We don't have access to any state funds as you would if we were building a traditional K-12 school right in community. I will tell you that not only have people donated expertise to the project, and so we feel put their money where their values are in order to make this thing a reality. So the other thing I will tell you is that we are, because this is a rural community, we're in a very favorable position to be able to get USDA financing for this. Cheyenne just applied and was not successful because they had too many people. But for this community, a community of this size, our finance people tell us that this is a community that's positioned excellently to be able to get USDA financing for this. Full fundraising effort until we've finished our work with the IRS. We do have people who have been blessed in their live project, but I will tell you that until we have our perfected IRS status, we can't really move forward with any of that. But the last thing I'd tell you is every dollar we get, we have to get from somebody. So it's that has been an ongoing challenge, and we're so grateful to the people in this community who have helped us with that. Anything I missed in that?
I think you did a good, yeah.
Okay.
So you can't, until you have your 501c3 status, you can't act.
Problem is, so right now what we're doing is we're using the APA Utah Foundation in order to allow.
Right.
They don't want to write a check to Salt Lake. I don't think that people are going to seriously consider making meaningful. So our goal is to make sure that every dollar we raise goes into the class, pertains to the budget of the school, is that ultimately what you'll have is a footprint, of a basic design footprint for the building. Once you have a basic design and you get it to, and then based on that, you can move forward. Cost you. I know some really fantastic arts when bid day shows up. But for now, with commercial contractors, going to be looking at. So on the debt service, I indicated that we are talking with lending institutions, and we have some folks that are in the finance world that are a part of this, and I don't have finalized information for you. We are looking at various pathways, but go down. I think I've already touched on.
So I think donors, let's see what was
Cash
the-
flow analysis, donations.
So a lot at this point, so
Some of them have actually said, I do not want to be named.
So it's not our position to list all the donors. We don't have, a list of all the promises that are out there. We are we're just working through the process. We have people that want to help, but we don't even know how much, how much you need. We don't know those questions yet. We have a lot of things, when we're so early on in this process, we're working through that.
Dave has directed me to come up with a tighter budget for the next 6 months, so I'll have that in the next
Okay.
few weeks, I think.
Yeah, something more common.
And we're benefited by the fact that other schools have recently gone through this process, so there's a really lesson, we appreciate that, so they're helping us with their budget information, what they went through for the first, from the time they,
So the USDA funding, what would that cover?
construction,
Okay,
yeah. Yep.
100,
Or in kind, or
I've never
they're
heard
gonna
of
have to
that, so I
come
wanted
forward.
to learn more about
I
it.
think they're gonna have to come forward with something.
I think you're
Yep.
here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the land, or the value of the land may be part of it, I don't know.
I think it matters, and the fact that if I have to take down a separate piece of land in the county, or, then that's an additional cost, which hurts your position, right, for a lease payment, right? One of the reasons we have to form this other board, state requirements, whatever it is, but then within that, there are also guidelines and rules. We will, to the extent practicable, comply with those. So that's why we're listening online and can't see those. I will tell you that the state requires 4 acres plus 1 per 100 for a middle school, and then 8, something that's a little bit in between the two people. So I think if we were able to come back up with them in January, after theoretically we get an approval, have, of course, guidelines and requirements that are associated. Guidelines are there. I was actually a part of helping them craft those rules, and the reason so those standards are in place to make have endured. So we've committed that we will, that the state puts forward.
I keep hearing you, I'm sorry, I keep using words when you're talking about the design standards, such as practicable and to the extent possible. Aren't these statutory standards that you have to live up to?
That's a fantastic question. So the answer is, if this were a traditional K-12, absolutely. Because it's a charter school, the Carlson, that we would make every effort to comply with outlets in every classroom. So much, things like that.
Okay.
Brought up a few safety concerns with regard to the site. We looked into that a little bit. I thought that was a great question. The concerns is that the location of this parcel has -4B, and it gives guidance and suggestions, not restriction. The FAA suggests transitional surface to you, but our placement for this part applicable. This is not within 5,000 feet of that marker. And I will also tell you that throughout the state, schools proximate to runways are not uncommon, including over there. In Laramie County, we've got schools proximate to an Air Force, and I'll let the pilot speak to it, but there are some operating procedures that a lot of times the airport's south over the lake instead of north over the town. Same thing in Afton, your traffic patterns so that they are less likely to have. We also heard concerns about air pollution. I will tell you that we were asked to write a letter to the DEP, a resource to the community as it pertains to that sort of thing. It's my understanding that this material that they mine out of here is not the silica containing soils that you might get in some communities that, but nonetheless, it's certainly a concern. When you design a school, it's one of the things that is, so making sure that you have thoughtful planning into your traffic circulation, both in and out of the school. I will tell you that even when you provide busing, most parents care to drop their kids off. Thoughtful walk corridors in the state of Wyoming. Kiddos who live within a mile of a school are required to walk. The state doesn't pay for transportation. Location and sensible traffic circulation is something that we're going to work carefully with your staff, Mayor, to make sure that we attend to. Excuse me. And the last one is the brewery proximity. I will tell you that usually what you're looking to do is be 500 feet from a brewery, and in this case, this parcel is, you've got a tasting room over there that's also proximate to a school facility, And that hasn't been a problem for that community either. So I will tell you that of these, the only one that the school has the ability, we do share the concern, but we don't. There were a lot of questions about design and soil types, questions that all need to be. We haven't perfected the location of the school yet. And so a lot of those questions, unfortunately, we're just not comply with all building codes. We have there has also some concerns with regard to appearance and visual relief that he wants to share with us.
We just don't want a tin box up there, basically.
Tough shed.
So, yeah,
Right.
no tough sheds.
Yep.
And I think we might have touched on leases already. Do you want me to do these?
Yep, I think so, yeah.
Okay. So the enrollment process is detailed in our application. I will tell you the primary concern that we hear and that I know the town council has heard is we want to make sure that Alpine kiddos get in the Alpine school. And to our knowledge, we don't know that we have the authority to prioritize based on the residents, a student residing in Alpine versus outside the town limits, but I have spoken to a few legislators. It sounds like they're open to clarifying it in statute. If that's something that this board is interested in having us pursue, happy to do that.
That's something they do in Utah, right?
Yeah, they can do that in Utah. Yep. They can award preference points based on
So it's
that
out
and
there,
other factors.
state to state, but it's out there.
Yeah. So, maybe the board will give us some direction on that. Curriculum concerns, so, there is a lot of information. In fact, it's all hyperlinked. It's so much, this book would be much thicker. The curriculum is very rich. It has to comply with WDE standards. One of the things that APA does that's a little bit unique is they use their teachers in the school to help develop the curriculum and how it's delivered. And so we have had to make assurances in our application that we will comply with all of the state's requirements. But once the school gets stood up and once the staff gets hired, they'll go ahead and further develop the curriculum and its delivery. One of the things that I will tell you that I've struggled with, and it's really hard to describe what happens in an APA school. And having worked in education myself, I will tell you what they do is astonishing. And I lack the words to describe it to you. But when you go to these schools, you'll see firsthand what I'm talking about and why I struggle to describe it to you here today. But what I can tell you is that you've got first graders memorizing Paul Revere's Ride, all of them. All 56 stands of Paul Revere's Ride, they know it. You've got third graders who are able to do sentence diagramming, all 30 of them at once, immediately. You've got fifth graders, all 30 of them at once, able to, you put up a formula on the board, and they can go over the valence shell electron theory with you, all 30 of them at once, immediately. It's astonishing. In addition to that, they're learning patriotism. They're learning how to conduct a business lunch, you know, which fork to use at the table. Things that a lot of our kiddos just don't get anymore that I think result in a well-rounded education. So with that said, we were speaking at the board meeting last week and thought, gosh, I wish there was a way we could communicate that. And so our venerable board chair suggested that perhaps what we do is charter a bus and find 70, 80, how many parents the bus will accommodate, and offer to take a group of parents down there and let them see what we've seen, because it's, Mayor and members of the council, it's astonishing to see that.
Thank you.
There was a question about hosting curriculum-focused Q&A sessions. The council will remember we put on a bunch of seminars during, prior to our application process, and we started out with a few in the beginning, but I will tell you, having worked in education, that most parents don't want to talk much about curriculum, but that doesn't mean that we're not willing to talk to them. I don't know that a community meeting is a fantastic way to do it, but I think what we do is find out who from the community has questions, and we will connect them with the curriculum director so that they can get those questions addressed specifically.
I think it wouldn't just be parents. If we're asking educators to possibly move over
Yeah.
and be a part of this school, I'm sure they're gonna have an incredible amount of questions, and
I don't think Carolyn would have any opposition to having a meeting, but I will tell you the ones that we had earlier,
right, I know you had really low attendance
Yeah.
on those.
It's a tough position to put people in that are considering changing to teaching at this school. It puts them in a really compromising position. So I can see why that would be difficult.
Yeah.
But-
okay. But anyway, we're open.
I'd like to, yeah, we can discuss more community
Yeah,
outreach.
if you guys have a solution of how you want us to approach the community, I mean, we're open to suggestions,
Great.
so.
And I don't think those meetings over the summer were necessarily low attendance. It's a matter of creating interest and vibe. So I think that basically, because I was inspired by one of those meetings, and I know a lot of other parents were as well. They were held during the summer, which is a very busy time.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a school.
Right,
It wasn't 100%. And like I said, it's very difficult for parents to think about upending their children when they don't even know what the next step is. And it's very difficult for them to really get involved in this grassroots effort. So that's what we're trying to start. So this is that first step. But I don't think that's an indication of interest. Those
no,
meetings.
I would agree, and I think the spotlight, we've moved to a different phase, and it's a lot more tangible for families.
Absolutely.
So I think it would be a lot better attended moving forward.
I think we'd be happy to set one up.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And I think we already talked about legal financial risks.
I mean, a lot of that, we're gonna be working through with the town, so that the town is comfortable. So we're not coming to you saying, this is what we're dictating, we're coming to you saying, hey, let's work together on figuring out what the town wants and what we
Yep.
need, so. Okay, then the last one, just, was some of the questions they had is the success failure rate of APA schools and, not APA schools, but of charter schools in general. And so APA's been in business for 20 years. They have 7 schools now. They're winning awards. They're performing top of the state, as you can see. Draper #1 is second out of 799 schools in Utah. Draper 2 is number 19 out of 799 schools. Anyway, there's the statistics there. Reading, math. I mean, these guys perform really high. They're the top workplaces in Utah. So, I mean, these guys. This is why we will be successful. Is we're bringing on what we feel is the best charter available.
How are those rankings? Who does those rankings? Which entity comes up with the rankings?
I will find out for you. Give me
Okay,
just a second.
thank you.
Yeah, Carolyn's watching, so maybe she could send us a. Anyway, we can get back to you on that one.
Thank you.
I just think it's important to reiterate on that the, while we're using APA as a model, you're using APA as a model, like you just said, the curriculum will be dictated by the state of Wyoming. And then our teachers and our staff will dial it in. So it's not gonna be a carbon copy of what they're doing there.
Right,
It'll fit our community.
exactly.
Yep, we'll cater this to Wyoming, we'll cater this to Alpine, we'll cater this to, our needs, yes. I think that was all we had on our, thing. I mean, I guess at this point would be to just make sure we answered what you guys had for us as the council.
Yeah, let's, anyone have any questions for them directly right now, that came up during the presentation?
Not that came up from the
Other than the questions we already
presentation.
asked.
Right, I think that there's a lot of documentation that we'll look forward to. I know some areas were skipped over. So just as that information comes in,
Yeah.
I'd love for you to stay in contact with us. And I know that Monica had thoughtfully put in a suggestion for timelines. That's really helpful to us as well. So just making sure that as questions come up, as we re-review these questions, we're staying within a healthy timeline.
We talked about that in our recent meeting. Did you come up with a timeline?
We're still working through it. I think at the end of the day, it's really going to respond to what the land is. Like, we cannot start designing a school until we have the land solidified.
And can you pull up that slide that just shows kind of what 9.5, 10 acres looks like and, for discussion?
Yeah. I think part of it also, as far as the timing is concerned, I know you've made it clear that the land is very important to that, but don't you also have to have the 501c3 like in place before you really start taking it?
So, I mean, we're hoping to do a lot of things simultaneously. You know, the design process is going to take a while, a little bit of time. I mean, we have to work through, I mean, we talked about 3 to 6 months-ish. It could be in the planning phase between engineering. I mean, we're going to have to come to you guys with the town with, and get your input, different work sessions. I mean, there's a lot of steps along the way. So we would like to get, I mean, we want to know that we have the land, and that we can get started in the process. We don't want to do a lot of work without knowing this is part of the deal.
Yeah.
And we want to get that, you know, our suggestion is we'd like to get you guys a draft lease and get legal counsels working together on that and make sure we have that in place so that we don't put all this effort into something that doesn't going to happen.
Our goal is a 2026 enrollment, so we would work backwards from
From
that.
there, okay. We've talked in our meetings, and I've tried to express it in the public meetings, but government works slow. And we don't want to be the barriers to entry to getting a school here. We're obviously being proactive and trying to work with you guys on that. But if for whatever reason this process is just taking too long and you see that 2026 not as an option, do you have a backup plan? Are you guys looking at other land options?
I mean, the first thing we would hope that, we have looked at other options. This is the best option we found. We are hoping that, you know, if for some reason we have to go back to the Charter Authorizing Board and ask for more time, that they would get that to us. But we would first, we would like to keep moving as fast as we can. And this is, like I said, it's a group. We're going to need everyone to make this actually happen for this community. We're going to need the council support. We're going to need the town support, the community support to help push this along. Now, there's a lot of things we can do. If we know we have land as an option, upon pending, we have, you know, approval of the design. Maybe there's some stipulations that you guys would like to see, but we would. I think that's some conditions that you guys might want to put on that, which is fine. We're willing to work through that, but you know, we don't want to wait 6 months. We'd like to at the next council meeting, you guys, you know, to kind of get this thing moving and started.
Yeah, I don't think we can promise that for the December meeting because I'm actually not going to be in person. I would like to be here when we make that, but I will be attending on the phone. But I definitely think that we can get something on the books for early in 2025. Speaking of conditions, I just wanted to come back to the conditions that the Charter Authorizing Board discussed. Can someone go over those?
Let me pull those up in a sec.
Okay.
Councilman Castillo, the answer to your question.
Yes.
Those rankings were provided by State of Utah Department of Ed.
Thank you.
Give me just a second,
Yeah,
Mayor. I
sure.
forgot about
Thank you.
that. I was going to
That's
pull it
okay.
up on my emails.
Yep.
If you have another question, I'll look for this while you're
Sure.
working on that.
Oh, Meredith, if you don't mind, can you kind of zoom in on and give us a little tour? This is the latest and greatest that you guys have come up with. So obviously entering off the highway, can you scroll down just a little bit and so we'll walk them through this, but entering off the highway on US off 89 there, and then the main entrance would be turning in between the library and the old clinic, going up what's called Elk Run, and then kind of circling around. In the yellow building is the one-story K through 8, and then is the gym, that gray building?
So, what we wanted to make sure of today, and we actually provided less detail, because we think that we gave an impression early on that it's a basic metal box that's got a red roof, and we didn't want that impression tonight. We wanted to say this is a basic area where this will be.
Yep.
But we're gonna use, architecture and, some design, and we're using the state standards. There's a lot of things that have to be involved in this process. So this is just a basic concept of basically to show you guys landmass that we would like to have commitment on. And, we would obviously come back to you guys with a improved, something that you guys can be proud of, design, and as we work through these details.
Right. Can you now scroll up just a little bit? I think it's interesting that you guys have actually utilized pretty much the 5 acres on the upper bench to fit the initial school, the first with the parking lot. And then the rest of it that's kind of north of that, that would be the ballpark, where the current ice skating rink is, things of that nature. You don't necessarily have anything drawn there. I know you want that area for expansion. The thing I want to point out, and our attorney has brought it up many times, is that we can't bind future administration.
Sure.
So I think, we need to discuss it, but it might be phase 1 is let's just say roughly 5 acres. And then the next phase, the 4 or 5 acres, or whatever that is kind of earmarked. But, if for whatever reasons you don't hit certain milestones, or if the school, God forbid, something happens and it folds, that we haven't tied up all that land, and maybe once you hit certain milestones, we can release that, or future administrations can release that land or something like that. But kind of, I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Mayor, I think we can be creative. I think that we would like to have so we meet the state standards, that we have the minimum amount of land, and maybe the creative answer is make 2 parcels.
Yeah, that's what I was.
And we lease both parcels, but we have different conditions on the second parcel.
I agree.
But then we have something, it's a matter of being creative and working through this together.
Yep.
And there must be something that we can do that helps you guys feel solid about that, and we also meet the state standards that we need to meet, so.
I would push for that as well. That was well said.
Okay.
I have the conditions, Mayor.
Okay.
Okay. Condition 1, prior to the school's opening, the APA Alpine Board of Trustees will supplement its existing board membership with additional K-12 education expertise to bolster the group's capacity to complete a robust annual evaluation of the EMO's services and deliverables.
That's basically, you just have to have a new board. Is that?
Representation.
We have to have K-12 representation on our board.
Yes, okay.
Yes. But not every member.
Right, of course.
Right, okay. So condition 2, prior to the recruitment and hiring of the founding leader, the applicants will adjust the organizational structure so that the APA Alpine school leader is a school employee that reports directly to the charter school board rather than the EMO, the educational service provider. Condition 3, to guarantee inclusivity and uphold the spirit of federal protections for at-risk students under the Individuals with Disabilities Act, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, Equal Opportunities Act, Title 9 of the Education Amendments Act of 1972. APA will submit, there's a typo here, these all recruitment and outreach materials for approval by the Wyoming Charter School Authorizing Board prior to dissemination, leading up to the school's first year of operation thereafter as requested. So they basically want us to comply with federal law.
Yep.
So, condition, which we had planned to do anyway.
Yeah, of course.
So, condition 4, prior to the submission to and approval by the Wyoming Charter School Authorizing Board and subsequent execution of the EMO management agreement by the Alpine APA School Board, the EMO will produce a detailed line item budget that includes a clear and quantifiable deliverable in each category of service to enable a comprehensive evaluation of market value, adequacy, and criteria for fulfillment. And we are going to ask them what they meant by that.
Yeah, right.
Because we did submit a budget with our application.
Yes.
So we just need to understand from them, what is it that is lacking from this budget that you
Yeah.
need to see?
I
in
think those are
more
the same
detail?
questions we have, so we probably share that. Once you get it set for them, it'll hopefully cover our questions as well. Okay, any other questions for these guys? I think you did a good job trying to kind of take our list, and it's gonna take a while to get all these questions answered, but, I think in general, you've kind of laid it out pretty well. Trying to think off the top of my head if there was any other things. Do you guys have any other questions?
I think they covered everything I had.
As far as questions that engineering had, that's just something later down the road until we really have the design.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of like, there's not a perfect roadmap to get to here. And the fact that we are here is a miracle, and it's amazing. We didn't have a roadmap to get to here.
Right.
This has just been 2 years of perseverance with a lot of different people and a lot of money and a lot of, energy. And I'm telling you, it's amazing that we're here. The road to the end is not a direct pathway. There's not a roadmap that says this is how we get there. It's going to be you guys, it's going to be us, it's going to be this community working together because they want it. And this town deserves it. This is our chance, and we're pumped about it.
Thanks,
I
Dave.
think for the next meeting that we get together, if you guys can have a little bit more clarity on the timeframe on the 501c3, and then maybe get your, as you call it, your Gantt chart together, Meredith, that would basically say, okay, if we're gonna open up for fall of '26, what is the timeframe? What milestones do we have? I'm so sorry. What milestones do we have to hit to get there?
Great.
And so to make sure we're staying on top of it, because, if you've got, let's just say, 3 months before you even can get your 501c3, if it's 6 months, whatever, and then that's when everything really starts, then that is, nice to know. But go ahead.
So my question to you guys as the mayor of the council, what do we need to do to get a lease with the town? What steps? I mean, the 501c3 doesn't really have much to do with the land and our, the Gantt chart. That's something that we're working on. It's going to be progressing. What would you guys like to see from us? We would like to get start the process of getting you a draft lease, maybe to legal counsel.
I think before you ever even get the draft lease, I think the best thing to do is for us to have a vote, and then at least it's like an initial vote. I know we've done
Okay.
an LOI that basically says we're teaming up and we're going to go. So I don't know if it's another stronger worded LOI or something that moves us further down the road. Of course, we're trying to make sure that we're hearing the public and any comments that they have, and we don't want to, we understand how important this is. I mean, it's been 30 years of building, as you said, to get to this point. And we want to make sure that this council is doing what's best for the town of Alpine, and that we have to take in everyone's opinion on that. And I understand your point of view, and a lot of people share about there's nothing better for the town of Alpine than having a school. There's definitely merit to that, but we have to weigh all the other things that go into the decision.
Well,
So
we would like to help whatever we can to help facilitate us addressing all those other things as soon as we can. So if you guys give us a list of what we need to address, I mean, a lot of the stuff we're telling you as the list we got tonight, that it's going to be coming as, one of the first earlier steps is this land lease, so that we can progress with the design, with the budget, with the different, it's all, there's different parts and pieces as we go, right?
I think it's kind of like a chicken or egg thing, honestly, because for me, I want to know demand, and I want to see the financial aspects of it. And I understand you're saying that really for us to move forward, we need to have have the land tied up or whatever.
Okay,
but
there's other parts we could do, though. We could have the land tied up that would say that with a condition that you'll show us that we have demand. So you guys could put that as a condition.
Yeah.
Before we can build anything on this land, before this lease becomes it becomes executed once we've proven to you guys the demand. That would be a condition. For us, I would rather have the conditions laid out. This is what you guys want to make sure you see before we build. But as long as you meet these conditions, we're going to sign this lease. you
Yeah.
know.
I can tell you, the main conditions, in my mind, are demand and the financial aspect. And we want to know what happens if the school fails, what happens to the USDA loan that you're going to have. Is it tied to the land? Is the town basically on the hook for paying off the rest of that school? These are all questions that I think are still up in the air that we need to figure out. And until we get a lot of those things covered, I can't imagine us making the next major step. So I think, is there any other things that you guys would, Mr. Sanderson?
My number one concern, I'm sorry if this is gonna sound like a stupid question, is who would we be doing the lease with if you do not have an entity that's yet?
So the lease will be the Alpine, the foundation, our foundation.
And that's a legally formed entity?
Yes.
Okay.
Kevin Boyle's formed it for us.
Okay.
So the entity is formed.
Both entities are formed
We're just waiting
for the status of,
status on the nonprofit.
yeah,
Right.
the 501c3
But everything
status.
else is in place on the most.
Both entities are formed. We've not adopted the bylaws yet. We have draft bylaws for the foundation. We should have the other draft bylaws this week for the charter school.
Wait, for the foundation, so this foundation doesn't have bylaws yet?
They have draft. They're
There's
working through the draft right
There's a
now.
draft
'Cause
bylaws.
Before, I mean, I would even look at a lease, I would want to see your legal bylaws that have been adopted and approved by your
So that would be part of a
board.
condition that would say that you want to see the bylaws.
Well,
That's before I even
That's
spend
before,
the
that would
town's
be initial.
time and money looking at a lease.
Yeah.
I want to see if you guys are legally, have a legal right
Okay,
to
and that's-
enter into a lease contract.
Fair enough. I mean, we're glad to when we get those adopted, we'll get you a copy of them.
And they're down to minor edits right now anyway on it, so we're close.
That would mean all the board members for both entities were set as well. So the community had plenty of time to respond to that need, be involved as much as they'd like. Incorporated Alpine members, especially if we're talking about town land, is very important to make sure that you open that up to them as well.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Oh, to have in town, as many in-town Alpine residents as possible,
On both.
because
boards.
it's on both boards. And I know there's a lot of support and there's a lot of interest, so I'd like to make sure the community is involved with that.
Yeah, and if you have people that are interested in, have them reach out to us. I mean, that's what the first step would be. If you know someone that wants to be on this board, reach out to me. And, as long as they have, they want to be a positive part of this, and then we're all in about having these people be part of it, so.
Remind me which board you would suggest that the town council appointed someone to be on?
School.
Foundation.
The foundation.
Oh, foundation.
The foundation, yes. Because the town's going to
Because
be.
that's where your land goes.
Foundation board.
Yep.
Okay, so of which, now you have 3 members, and you're hopefully trying to get to 5? Okay,
One of which
One of which would
be
be,
filled by this
will
board.
be filled by you guys.
okay. I think it'd also be important to have somebody on the actual school board, but if we could appoint somebody that had education, your person that you're trying to find with K through 12 experience, hopefully we could appoint somebody for that as well.
I'm not sure that the school board is going to be, that's something that we can discuss, but that's a whole different deal. Like, we're not going to just let the town appoint someone that, to that board. I mean, that's what I'm pretty sure that's the case.
All right, we'll see. I mean, it may become a condition, so we'll have to see.
Is there a reasoning behind not wanting to do that?
Well, I mean, we want a very positive experience. We want people on this board that are going to bring that get along, that bring passion, that are excited. We don't want to just be shoved someone that does not like.
That's
ours.
not to say that we're going to put someone on the board just to cause problems.
No, I know
or
you,
whatever.
I know that, but we would want carefully to see who's involved in that. We wouldn't want just anybody to be on that board. So,
I think you should consider that as a very strong point and talk about it with your board and make sure that see if that's a hill you want to die on. Because I think we have heard tons of comments from the public that think that we should at least have some say on the school board, but especially with however many members you're talking about, having one person that, not necessarily is a, you know, just somebody that can report to us with, you know, with,
Well, we can report to you as well.
yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be fearful of a divider. I think at that point in time, we would have moved through that process. We were in a different state, and town representation, for me, that's of the utmost importance. So I wouldn't be fearful that it would be this negative presence.
Well, and
And a
I
different
guess,
perspective should always be
I guess the
encouraged.
safety valve is if a board member is not productive, the bylaws, the draft bylaws say that the existing board members can remove a member.
There you go.
So if someone is being an impediment to the mission of the board, then the board would have to act to remove them, and we'd come back to you to find
Someone else. Yep.
who could be passionate and proactive.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, there might be a way to work around working together, but.
Yeah.
We definitely want, you know, a positive direction. We don't want to
For
go
sure.
backwards.
Yeah. No, we've made it really far up to this point, so we want to keep moving forward. Any other questions, comments?
What is the timeline that the state charter board gives the charters? So like, what are they expecting? You have a maximum of
Our app-
3 years, 5 years?
Our application states that we're going to open fall of 26.
Right.
So,
But does the state charter board, how long is that charter good for?
Right.
So say we go down the path and we get a hiccup and we have to shuffle to one way or the other, how long is that charter?
I would
we have to
get
go
that.
amend, we have to go amend our charter, so we'll have to go back to the charter authorizing board and say, hey, we're not going to make the fall of 26, and ask them for permission to meet the fall of
Gotcha.
27. I mean, that's going to be something that we'll have to get permission for,
Gotcha, okay.
yeah.
Okay. I'd like to see a lot more information on the budget, on your phase development. How much would you need to raise by phase 1, by phase 2?
Yeah.
I'd like to see all of that
Fair.
broken down.
So Emily, I'm just gonna tell you, so there's like the cart before the horse. So we have to have, there's steps to happen. First, we have land, then we get it designed, then we can get, it goes out for bid. I mean, there's a process to giving you a real budget. I mean, we can give you a very schematic budget if that's what you wanna do, but it's really, doesn't really mean much.
Right, I understand that, but when we're talking about, however you look at it, there's a portion of the town that operates as a business. If this is prime real estate land, we obviously want to make sure the school's going to be a success, that you've lined up. We're taking you at your word, and there's trust, but I think that trust can be verified. I'd like to see a lot more documentation that backs up what you're looking for as far as donations. What are your upfront costs? If you don't get the USDA designation, what happens then? That all helps us with our decision for the land, because at this point in time, it's real estate that I know we'll negotiate a lease and we'll see what type of market value or whatever we find is the appropriate number. But at this point in time, we're working on very little documentation and evidence. It's obviously, this is something that we want to see for our community be a success. So I'd like to, there's a lot of questions that hopefully you can start filling in the blanks
Is
and
there-
providing.
Sorry.
No,
Is
that's
there a
okay.
possibility of, so the architect or whomever has designed this K through 8, you know, in general, it's this many square feet, it's at whatever, $400 a square foot to make that building in the current times or whatever, and then you can kind of make a real loose forecast based on whatever those numbers are?
Sure.
And then, that's all I'm asking for.
Okay.
I'm not looking for
Okay.
you guys to say, it's gonna cost $14.5 million and we're going to have this many students on the first.
You're right.
Because basically, the way I look at it is, you're asking the town of Alpine to invest in your business. It's a school, but it's loosely a business. And so we have to do our due diligence, and I've told you this all before, and I want to make sure everyone at home understands that we're doing our due diligence, but it's a big ask for this to happen. And so for us to invest in you, invest in Alpine's future, I think there's a minimum amount of things that we need to come up with. And just financial, like cash flow analysis, we anticipate that it's gonna cost whatever the number is, $10 million, $15 million to build it. And these numbers, you don't even know how much you're gonna get from the state as far as your ADM and all that stuff, but just make some real basic guesses. And then from there, extrapolate that out and say, this school, if we hit these forecasts, will be paid off in this amount of time. We'll be coming back to you in 10 years looking to expand. Just some real, throw it up on the wall and see what sticks sort of thing. And we wouldn't hold you to it, but it's something that we can build off of.
That makes sense.
I
Okay?
think we can do that.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I think we can help with the enrollment. I mean, we send out
of course.
surveys to the school. We've sent one before. This can be a lot more specific and say, what ages are your children? Do you live inside incorporated boundaries? Because yes, we saw a lot of feedback, but then when you go and look at some of those families, they either don't have children or their children have already matriculated. They don't live in town. I think that we can help you with finding these numbers in a timely manner and really asking the community specifically, do you have an opinion on acreage? What will you be able to commit your children? Is APA the school of your choice? That's another factor that we just want to make sure we're pulling our community. And then we can look at things like, what are the additional costs to the town? We've talked about this, a traffic study, any safety issues, if we have to move infrastructure. These are all things that you'll have to make decisions about, and we will with you along the way. So the more upfront information, you can have those discussions with your board, and then more is better. I think the more you can give us, that really helps us with our decision. And that gives us much more information to disseminate to our community.
Understood.
Okay?
Okay, so in short, basically, get bylaws to Mr. Sanderson.
Yes.
Let's see here, show you guys that we have demand. You want a financial budget.
And the demand will help with the acreage as well, because if you're looking at 10 acres, then you're saying 4 acres is the minimum plus 1 acre per 100 students. Did
For
I remember that
elementary.
standard? For elementary, okay.
So we're gonna go visit with the state and
Okay.
talk to them about the fact that we've got a K-8, which is a little bit of both.
What's considered elementary? Is that 6?
6.
Yeah, okay.
And maybe our suggestion is we make this into 2 parcels, and we just do 2 different conditions on the lease.
I
So
agree.
that way we have what we need.
Break this, everything,
So
just
if-
so
let's
everybody
call it-
understands.
Let's call that 10 acres
agreeing.
for round numbers.
Okay,
So let's just call it for round numbers that we break that into 6 and 4, and we lease both, but it's 2 different parcels that
Oh, I like that.
have different conditions.
Yep.
have you met at all with the fire chief? I had put in a call to him, but I wasn't able to touch
So
base.
a member of our board has, and
Okay.
Dave Burchard was, he could report to that. He wants to, he'll be more involved as the design progresses.
Right.
So at this moment in time, we don't have a design. He's like, I really don't have, I can't really help you at this moment, but he,
We want him at the table, we want to get his
Absolutely,
input on,
yes.
egress, fire road access,
Right,
and traffic flow.
okay.
Was your question regarding those things or the actual his acreage and like just being neighborly or what specifically?
Oh, just
was
for
your question?
international fire code, the
Oh,
fact
right.
that he would obviously be looking at Elk Run. I just wanted his,
Yep.
obviously, his opinion and any concerns that he had looking at the design.
yeah, I mean, as a design progresses, we'll definitely be involving him.
Yep.
And the opportunity is not lost on us in terms of the precedent that this can set for the town. So in addition to having a state-of-the-art curriculum and education, we really want to focus energy on quality, right? We want this to serve generations. So that's a top priority of ours. It just takes time to get there.
Yeah. You being in construction, you know that construction takes a long time. In the design process, like, the only way to come up with a really quality building is to design it from the beginning. We're finding that right now, trying to get the pretreatment plant over the finish line. It was a terrible plan from the beginning, and if they would have had everything dialed in, it would have been a much faster process. But now, we,
There were a lot of surprises.
still surprises to this day. So, yeah, that time will be well spent. getting the design really dialed in, so.
And that can take into consideration a phased approach as well. So, but the idea really is to master plan where we want to go with it. And then if we have to phase it based on construction costs or whatever, we will. But the point is that any architect that we seriously go to is going to want to know where they're designing the school. And I totally
Yeah, of course.
appreciate that. And I think we can get high-level stuff. But I think before we start to really engage professionals, we'd like to have all hands in.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So if you guys work on those, if you need any follow-up clarification on any of the points that we talked about.
Right,
just
we
let
can
me know.
send you an email. I'd like to understand the risks more, and I know that'll be legal discussions, but
Yeah,
as I am not a lawyer.
Could we set a date
I was gonna say, we should,
where we'd like to be able to have the opportunity to present that, I think, just because it's a nuanced conversation.
yeah, so
and-
January's really busy.
January's busy, so we might be looking at February for the next work session. And
We've got
hopefully by,
impact fees and the master plan coming
Yep.
up for January.
so I would shoot for February, unless, Madam Clerk, do we have something else already scheduled for February, as far as you know?
Madam Assistant Clerk will be happy to take care of that because I will be on a cruise.
Oh, okay.
That's right. you will be-
We're not gonna bother you,
So,
but yeah,
in the meantime, I guess, like, can we work with the mayor and, with you directly and get you, so that you feel comfortable with these things in the meantime, and not wait for February workshop? I mean, we'd like to, we don't have to, obviously you guys can't vote, but like, let's informally get everything prepared, so we're not in February looking for March or April, because March is busy, and now we're into April.
leading up to whenever the meeting happens, I will actively work with you on those things, and then we'll be in charge of disseminating it to town council and making sure everyone's in the know.
Yeah, we
But
just don't
well,
want.
I understand what you're saying. We're not trying to buy time or
Yeah.
push you off. It's just government works slow, and we're trying to be as fast as we can on these things, but we have to make sure we check all the boxes. But as Mr. Sanderson said, until you guys have, the fully formed agency or the board organization with all the bylaws and everything, then at that point, and only then would we be able to even enter in, negotiations basically with you at that point. But it's going to all be really informal until this board has an opportunity to vote and give someone, more likely me, the authority to negotiate the lease. So hopefully, I would say let's shoot for February to get February town council meeting, and maybe we do the February work session, and you guys have all this stuff
Dialed
hopefully
in, ready to present.
dialed in, and,
Having shared that with you.
yeah,
in
along the way.
preparation before the
Yep, yep. And then we can hit the ground running after the first year, but,
So you would just make sure that all the questions that we've proposed, they were all being answered, the data was being gathered?
Yeah, for
Is that what
sure.
you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just another creative outside the box. Would the town consider the idea of getting an appraisal on this chunk of ground and selling it to our board and letting us take this at that point?
my initial reaction is no, but I'm only one person on the board. I don't think we're necessarily looking to sell off assets that the town has. It's valuable assets. I think 10 acres here is going to be quite a bit more expensive than 10, 15, 20 acres that you could get, a little bit further south. So I don't know if that necessarily works into your, that might hurt your budget
Right.
numbers, I guess, is my concern with that.
And all I ask, if you guys, you guys represent the town, the community. The community wants this to happen. If we delay and delay and delay, this could be the fault of this school of not happening. And I just want you guys to be aware of this thought. We're willing to jump through the hoops and get you guys what you need as in a timely as we can. We would like that in response to what we're willing to do and what we've done to get to this point. You guys helping us get this through too, by maybe even doing a special meeting if we need to, or doing let's not wait till February, guys. Let's keep this thing moving. If we can get you the information that you guys need in the next 2 or 3 weeks, let's do a special meeting and do it in 2 or 3 weeks.
I think February's fine, but if something comes up, we'll look at it. we have to have the chance to do this right. And I've told this to you privately, but I'll say it publicly so people understand that, and I've heard it from people, that there's people that don't live in the town of Alpine are coming to the town of Alpine and saying, here's your school, we need it, we need your land. And that, it's a perception that's out there, and we need to make sure that we're listening to them and doing what's right. And you said that there is, everybody wants this school. Well, it's not across the board, everyone wants this school.
Sure.
There's tons of support for this school, but, you know, we have 1,220 residents currently, and we need to make sure we're doing whatever we can to listen to every single one of them. If they're not gonna come to the meeting, if they're not gonna send us emails, whatever, then that's fine. But it's my job, and I feel like it's my responsibility to do whatever I can to listen to them and make sure we're making the best decision, because we are tying this land up forever, okay? And the town of Alpine has a limited amount of land that we own. And it's unlikely we're just gonna be able to go grab a bunch more land, so we need to make the best decision. I hear you about trying to keep it moving forward. The best way to do that is you guys get things working behind the scenes and work on these questions that we have, and we'll just, you know, keep working through the process. But with that being said, if time is of the essence, then you may have to look at other options for land.
And
Okay.
we also wouldn't feel a lot of this pressure. I know that it's always this is a timeline, we could lose the opportunity, but if we had been involved in this process at the beginning, the moment that applications were being considered to use town land, we could have started this discussion a long time ago. So we're also trying to keep up with this movement and momentum and work as quickly and pull our community as quickly as we can. But it's still, to a lot of community members, it's still a very fresh idea to use this land. So we're not trying to create obstacles, but this is still gonna take our time, you know, us time to process, make sure that we have everything on the legal end, make sure that every person in our community is feeling represented, because not everybody has children. A lot of our community don't. And this also affects some specific neighborhoods that maybe never foresaw a school being right next to them, and their open space and all of the animal conservation being shifted as far as land use. So these are a lot of ideas that I feel like our community is actually doing a really beautiful job at trying to work through. But we also have to be respectful of their processes.
And, I mean, there's a contingent of people that want a school in Alpine, but not on that piece of land. So, you know, it's not universal support for a school on that land, and so we have to take that into consideration. I would call this, I'm not as up on the history of Alpine, but this is probably the biggest decision that's happened in the last 30 years. So, and I don't take that lightly. So we want to make sure we're doing the input, have all the information so we can make that decision. So you guys will do your job and help us get that information, and then we'll be further along.
And just remember, the reason we have land is because our forefathers set aside land a long time ago, including my father was on that,
Yeah.
you know.
They set aside.
And the reason
a
we have
piece
this
of
land, and also people like me came to this town and fought for land that was gonna be sold to private developers. So we had this land saved for schools. That was part of that deal. This has been this has been something in the process for a long time, that this land was earmarked for schools. It goes back before me. It goes back before most of you guys. And just want to make sure we don't forget that.
No one's forgetting that.
No,
And-
we would
and
be here today.
It,
if we
and just to
forgot
clarify, it's not all that land, it's a portion of that land was set aside. And so I hear you, and there's already the Child Development Center on that land that was set aside for it back in the day. So we've already, and that took a long time to get, and that's been there for 20 years, and they're looking to expand. I think that only helps you guys. One other thing before I forget about it, Julie Buckley came up to me and actively said that the thing that would help your demand more than anything would be going door to door and figuring out how many students actually live in the area.
Which
and
she
working our
did.
way down the valley and hitting community by community and figure out how many students would actively be willing to do that. There's people in the area that want to do that. And so grassroots is definitely going to be the way to get there, I think. So, using people like Julie to help in that process and getting more people, that's one way to figure out your demand for sure. So that, I think, is going to take time, but.
Yeah, and then you can figure out your enrollment numbers, and then you can figure out how much ADM money you'll be getting from the state. That's circular.
Yeah.
That helps everybody with information.
I think that'll only help. So, any other questions or concerns up here? Okay. Do you guys have any other things you want to point out? What I'd like to do is open it up for a few public comments. Our goal is to, we're not here to bash APA. There may be still questions about APA, but what I would like to do is open it up and see if there's any questions that this board can answer now. I think it's only going to help, but we're not looking for like a soliloquy, go on for 15 minutes. Please just keep your comments or questions to just a few minutes at the most, and then we'll keep moving forward. I don't think that should take too long, but if there's anyone that would like to make a comment or has a question, please, now's the time to do it. And then we'll make sure that you get on the record with your questions.
Mayor, before we do that, I
Yes.
just have one clarification. As we are starting this grassroots effort, which we all know is so important, can we move forward with the understanding that we have support of the town?
Well, you already have the support of the town from the LOI that we gave you.
Great.
Yeah. And, yeah, I think you're covered on that front.
Great.
Any questions? Okay.
Sue Colbus, Alpine resident, council, mayor, friends, residents, board. I think getting a school here is so wonderful. It's a great idea. I was always pro-school. I said it from the very first meeting. It's exciting. I don't have kids, but I think it's a great thing. I see all the kids in the neighborhood. They're adorable. It's all good. I think I'm a little baffled because I'm understanding that there are donors and there's potential funding and there's deep pockets and there's people that are passionate, and I can't for the life of me understand why you can't come up with a couple $1,000,000 to go buy a proper piece of land and bypass all this minutia and get this thing going. I think that's my question. There is a school on that land and there is a library on that land, and they're going to expand. So the proper allocation has been fulfilled, and okay, so there's more room, but it's there, there's a process, you're pushing, I get it, you have a timeline, but I think the highest and best use needs to be looked at deeply, legally, emotionally, physically, financially, for all that property, and I just think you'd be doing yourselves, the school and children, a favor by buying a piece of land that you can move on immediately. Thank you.
I think we kind of covered that a little bit, but just to make sure, are some of the stumbling blocks to that plan the infrastructure in general?
Infrastructure, costs of the land, and again, it all has to tie back and balance with the lease payments that the state's, it's formulaic, what they're gonna give us. So, anything that is above the formula, we have to find a way to fund it.
I guess in your financial projections, having a option one, option two, option one is, some nominal lease amount on a yearly basis, and option two is buying, land worth, there's a piece of property that's $1.6 million, that's 16 acres right down the road. So maybe you could add that into your calculations. And I also understand that having a school in town is beneficial for kids to be able to walk there. I was interested to hear your comment about if you live within 1 mile, like there's no busing,
Nope.
which is kind of crazy. So, yeah, that, I guess that on your financial projections, if you just think of those two options, maybe that could just help. Next comment.
Hi, I'm Dominique Bro. I live here in Alpine. I was thinking about the school board for the Alpine Charter School, and it just struck me as interesting. I'm so glad that there's so many people that are interested in doing or joining the board, but it does maybe feel a little bit like cherry picking, and you might, I know that with like the public schools, we have elections. I'm not really sure how that would happen with the charter school, but if there was some way for there to be some sort of election or some sort of way for the community to feel more involved in the selection of school board members, that might build trust and faith in that school board. So it's just a thought I had. Thanks.
Thanks, Dominique.
For example, I think Dominique would be an amazing
Yes.
person that we would appoint to the school board. But that's just saying,
Sorry.
yeah, we wouldn't put someone there just to be a thorn in your side. Please.
Hi. Sorry, I had a speech written out, but I'll just get the questions out of here. My name's Anessa Melnick. I'm an English as a second language specialist, degree in childhood education, master's degree in curriculum and instruction. I have an ESL certification, literacy lessons instructor, and also an Alpine resident. And I really don't like speaking in front of crowds, so I apologize.
You're doing great. Don't
Thank
worry.
you. You've seen me do this before. Okay, so a few questions I have. Going about the appointed board only, at the June 26th Alpine Information Meeting, Carolyn Schrett states, I don't work with any boards that are elected. That's just the way it works. All the boards I work with, so this is a company, she points to her sign, the American Preparatory Schools, and we work with some nonprofit boards and run their schools for them. I have chosen to not work with elected boards because it makes it really, really hard for us. Then she talks about having a parent on the board at one point, and they were trying to make decisions for other students. You should listen to the whole quote. This is not a democracy. A board is the board. They will decide what they want to do. So I guess my question is can we take her at her word on that? Or is there a flexible room? Because from what I'm noticing so far, we're buying a product. It's a business. We're buying already predetermined curriculum, which you can actually find on the 100-day curriculum. It's all direct instruction. How much say do parents have in this instruction? I have some examples of the lessons. It's a lot of, I'm sorry, I'm really upset about this. It's a lot of rote memorization, a lot of, I tell you something, you repeat it back until you have that mastered. I have examples right here. You say it looks really great. That's because they're practiced to say these things. Like, it's just practice and practice and practice. My question is, how is creativity developed? How, I'm sorry, I have it in here somewhere. So how do they develop creativity, critical thinking, and inquiry? Because a lot of this is rote memorization that this school brings forward. So I'm a little concerned about that when you say you want to bring this amazing school into our community. Other questions I have, like, are some of their policies. I urge every parent to look at their website and read these policies. There's one that makes every single desk needs to be facing forward, because that's how the curriculum works. It's a back and forth, call and repeat. There's something, they use behavior cards. I mean, is any of this changeable once they come into our, the behavior cards, I should explain this. If you misbehave, your first card's on yellow. You switch your card, start on green, switch it. You lose 5 minutes of recess. Second card, you get moved down to blue after every infraction. Third card, you move down to red and you lose recess time. Fourth card, you're on purple. Okay, behavior form is filled out, phone call with the parents. Fifth card, pass purple. Purple card, a parent has to come in and be with their child during the day. You get called in from work, need to come in order for your child to stay in school. This is all on their application.
I think this.
I'm sorry.
We're really getting into the minutia with
Okay,
this, and I was
but these are
hoping not
really
to do
important
that.
things, though, that like
I think
community
those
needs to know.
are important things. The biggest thing to take away is that at this point, it's APA or nothing.
Okay, but are these flexible, because these are huge
Now,
issues.
they've already said, and I'll let you guys answer, but they've already said that our teachers and our parents have some ability to, play with some of that curriculum. So I think that's going to be an ever-changing thing, so it matches what we have here. But I will tell you that if you're gonna get hung up on APA is the wrong solution for Alpine, then it leaves us nowhere to go, because it is the only solution for Alpine to get a school right now.
But parents need to know what they're buying.
Right. So that's part of, they've been tasked with giving the question and answers. And, I think a lot of people in the town have raised these concerns, and we've heard them. They've heard them, and now they're going to respond to them, and they want to be proactive and let you guys have a meeting where they come and talk to you. So I think that's definitely the next kind of step where you can answer those questions. But as far as Carolyn's comments, I heard those comments before.
Yes.
And it is concerning. But the thing that makes me feel good about it is that I don't think we necessarily have to have an elected board. If we have an appointed person on the board, and they already have selected a bunch of upstanding citizens from the town of Alpine, people that live inside the town, people that live outside the town, then I think we're moving towards a good school board. So that makes me feel better about that, because I heard the same, and I was like, whoa, what are we getting into here? But now I think we're moving towards, there's some flexibility there. And honestly, we are going to own this curriculum. I mean, APA is going to have a contract, and if things go bad, then we'll have an opportunity to change it.
But will we?
We will. We're
Is this-
going to make sure it's in the contract.
We can get those
That's going to be
guarantees
a condition.
before the lease? I mean, because I'm nervous to like, say, sign a lease if we don't really know, if not everything's clear to all the families whose.
That's
kids
going
are
to be a
going there.
condition. I can tell you
Okay,
that now.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Anessa was just asking more for parent involvement. And I think we can
Yeah.
get commitment on having appropriate curriculum involvement. Again, something that just fits Alpine.
Hi, Heather Goodrich, mother, educator, Alpine resident in town. I'm going to follow up on Anessa because I want to be clear. Some of the things Anessa said that, Eric, I'm concerned, your response was we can put that in the lease. There are laws that the state of Wyoming says that we don't get to negotiate. So if the school folds, there are very strict laws about what APS gets to take with them, including the curriculum, including student records. So we can say what we want, but we can't go against Wyoming law. So we need to be really careful about understanding what Wyoming law says will go with APS if the school folds.
Yeah.
So that's one of my biggest
If we
concerns.
get rid of APA, we don't like their curriculum, in general, we're going to say, take your curriculum, right?
Right. They get more than just the curriculum. They get any resources that are purchased, even if they're purchased by state of Wyoming funds, they get those. So computers, desks, materials. They take the staff with them.
That's in the contract, right?
That's in Wyoming state law.
No, you're talking about if things don't go well,
Right.
APA has in their contract that they get to take all.
No, that's Wyoming state law. It's not in the APS contract. That is the state of Wyoming law according to charter schools. They get everything purchased, even purchased with Wyoming state funds. So those are the kinds of things that we have to, like, when we say, oh, well, we don't like APS, we'll just kind of kick them out, and it's because it's in the contract. Yes, but what do we have? We have a school, a building that's leveraged against our public land. They take all the resources. They get all the student records. We have an empty building. They take the staff. Hopefully, we have the principal, because that's one of the conditions. We have an empty building on leveraged land. That's what's left.
We don't know if it's leveraged. That's still.
Hopefully not. That's one of the things that I really want to adamantly say is, as a taxpayer, I do not want my public land. I'm really against this particular piece of property. This, I feel like, should be used for a river walk, for other things. I feel like there's a lot of other options south of town that would make more sense. I don't understand why this piece of property. So that's one of my concerns. That, and just making sure we really deeply understand the Wyoming law, and what we're getting ourselves into, because it's not going to be just quick, let's get out if we decide we don't like them. I also want to say, according to what, back referencing what Anessa was saying, Carolyn has made it very clear that we go with what her curriculum is, we go with the way she does things, it's her school. So again, this is another one I want to make sure we're very, very clear that the board has a lot of input into what the school looks like, because when we went to those presentations, that's not what was communicated to us. So again, that's another thing that, let's just be crystal clear. If we don't like the way things are being done, then we get to change them, right? Last thing I wanted to say is, I guess just speaking to sort of the kind of school that APA is, for me, I was super excited about this. I've been part of this as one of the original people on the original board. I was all in. I wanted to, like, my kids were going to go here. I was hoping to maybe even be the principal someday. Now, you could not pay me for my kids to go to the school because now I know deeply what this school stands for. It has a very specific political leaning. So my question would be for you as you go out into the community and try and figure out who's interested in it, make sure they understand what this school is. What is APA? Because that's what you're selling. Because when I have talked to my friends who have very small children, including people that were on the original board, once they've looked into APA and what they are selling, they don't want to bring their kids here anymore. They're going to continue taking their kids to Jackson, continue taking their kids to Star Valley, because APA doesn't represent the kind of education they want for their kids. So if you're going to do a clear reflection of what this community wants, you need to be clear about what APA is. Because otherwise, what you're telling us in terms of the enrollment is not truthful. Because if you ask parents, do you want your child to go to school in Alpine? Who's going to say no? We're all going to say yes. I said yes. But if you say, do you want your kids to go to an APA school? And do you understand what APA stands for and what they represent and the way they teach and what their political leanings are? A lot of parents are going to say no, and that's going to impact your enrollment. So just be truthful and transparent, please.
Okay.
Heather, can I ask you a question? What section of the charter school statute says that they can take all of their stuff? Because I'm not finding it.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I want to also dovetail on that real quick, because I think the whole charter school process in the state of Wyoming is very new. So maybe those things have not necessarily been lined out, but it would be, we have to make sure we're covering ourselves.
know, yes.
I just want to make sure we're covered.
Hello, Patricia McQuaid. I'm a Alpine resident, and I'm going to kind of go back to more the financial issues that I have. I sent a letter to all the council members about my concerns about a lease. And I got a response from Jeremy talking about, because I don't want the lease, I don't want us to be leveraged. But Jeremy kind of said we would be leveraged. He talked about the length, because I don't think, he was talking about possibly a 30-year lease that would be necessary for them to get funding. Well, I certainly don't think the town of Alpine is responsible in any way for them to get funding. That's on them. And I think, listening to the initial presentations, there was private money available. The town wasn't going to have to come up with any money, any financial risk. So that's a real concern. And then also, as far as leasing this land, are we going to get rent? And Jeremy also kind of indicated that we probably would get minimal, like $1 a year or something like that. So I'm asking you, are you prepared to pay us market value rent for that land?
Just let her give public comment.
What's that?
Just let her give public comment.
I mean, this is public comment at the moment. I mean, I don't have.
So you're not going to, you don't know, or you don't?
Something we would have
We have to negotiate that with
the town.
With the town. At this point, we
We
don't have that information for you. I mean,
Well,
yeah, are we hopeful? We're hopeful for $1, yes.
Will you plan to if they said, yeah, we want market value rent for that land, are you going to say, okay?
We're hopeful the town is going to offer it to us for $1. That's what we're hopeful.
Offer it to you for $1?
We're hopeful.
I would say
Okay,
in your
all right.
financial projections, I would say you should try to come up with something that has some amount of rent in there. And I'm not going to tell you an amount of rent or whatever, but I think you just have to make sure that you can show us that in your financial projections, if you are charged some amount, that you can cover it for the life of the loan or whatever.
So my concern is just the town is not going to be liable, that if it folds, that we have our land, and whoever, and we get a building on it but somebody else is paying for that building.
Right.
We're not paying for that building.
That's our concern as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Please.
may put into the record of my answers to Pat. Hello, Pat. Thank you for reaching out and addressing your concerns. As I understand it, the charter application said they would meet Wyoming school building and facilities requirements. One of these requirements is a minimum of 4 acres with an additional 1 acre per every 100 students. The charter is currently planning, plans may change as more information comes available, to build to accommodate 400 students. 400 is what I thought at the time of this answer. This means the charter would need a minimum of 9 acres. I believe the Charter Foundation Board is asking for 10 plus or minus acres with the possibility of expanding in the future. The idea being they have the potential to expand if or when they needed, therefore never having to turn Alpine residents away. The lease length, as I understand it, will depend on funding sources. Wyoming does not currently fund the building of charter schools. Therefore, the Charter Board Foundation will be seeking all possible funding sources, including grants, endowments, private donations, and possibly traditional lending. Any of these funding mechanisms may require a specific lease length, possibly up to 30 years or more. I don't know. We all want the school to succeed and giving them the best possible footing for a chance to meet success in our community's interest. This is not to say there will be a carte blanche giveaway. It is my intent that the land will always be Town of Alpine land, and the town will work with the Charter Foundation Board to allow public access to use facilities when appropriate. I hope this helps bring understanding to the challenges the Charter Foundation Board faces. Their desire to bring a first-class public school for the kids of Alpine is sincere. This is not all and will not be a private school funded by private individuals and limited to only certain kids. This is a public school that needs public land and public support for short and long-term success. As always, thank you for being involved and sharing your concerns. I truly appreciate your thoughts.
Thanks for putting that in the record.
Yep.
Sir.
Hi, I'm Carson King, 20-year Alpine resident, native of Utah, local educator as well. Over Thanksgiving, I went home to Utah, had some casual conversations with family and friends. As an educator, I've also looked into this charter school and have my concerns about them. But I was really surprised just in casual conversations with friends and family when I brought this up, that this charter school from Utah was proposing a school in Alpine. I was really surprised to hear how many people in Utah are aware of this school and how many people were like, whoa, it's not that, those people, is it? So if you've not looked into this school, please do, so everybody can form their own opinion on what type of education local students will have. And something that was glossed over a little bit earlier, I feel like that really needs clarification, is Wyoming current state statute, as far as I know, is that any public school receiving public funds, as it should be in my opinion, any student in the state of Wyoming can attend any school until they have reached capacity. So if you have an issue with students from any part of the valley or any part of the state for that matter, as long as they're not coming from out of state, they have a right to go to a school that's publicly funded. So just be aware, that is current state law. It would require legislation changes in Cheyenne in order to change that. So that's law. That's not going to be changed easily. So just so people are aware of that.
Thanks, Carson. Does that mean that, let's say, we had 270 students and 10 of them were from Irwin, Idaho or something like that? Literally, we'd have to kick them out of the school if there was, a wait list of people from the state of Wyoming?
Mayor, I will tell you, I've not heard that before.
Okay.
But what I will tell you is Teton County School District has closed outside enrollment and all of their schools are not at capacity. So it just doesn't seem to logically square with what I'm saying. I'm not saying the gentleman is misrepresenting. It just doesn't square with what I'm saying.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we can look into that because on the APA application, it does say any child who wishes to enroll at the school can. It doesn't go into any other details. So that would be nice to have clarification on.
Yep. Any other comments? Hi there.
Hi, members of the Town Council and community of Alpine and Star Valley. Chris Christie, I'm a mom of 4, 2 of children of mine which were born right here in Alpine. I'm an educator in Star Valley, and I also have my Master's of Education in Curriculum and Instruction. As a longtime resident and parent who raised 4 kids in Alpine, I can speak from personal experience about the challenges that come with living in a town where there is no local school. My oldest child is currently a junior and is driving 65 miles round trip to Afton every day to attend school. That's basically 2 hours out of her day, just travel time that would be better spent pursuing hobbies or enjoying the things that make Alpine such a special place to live. Obviously, this is a challenge that's shared by many families in Alpine. And a local school, it's not just about education, it's about creating that space where families can thrive, children can grow, and the community can come together. I'm aware that there are some in the community who have raised concerns, particularly regarding the curriculum chosen for the school, the potential legal challenges. Let me address this directly. There are always those who will try to divide, focusing on areas of disagreement rather than the opportunity. Yes, it's true, any large institution, including schools, are going to face legal challenges. Show me a school district that doesn't have lawsuits or legal disputes. These are part of the reality of running any educational system. And I, too, have seen my share of these struggles as a public school teacher in our valley since 1997. Maybe rather than letting these concerns sow division, we should focus on the bigger picture, the opportunity to build a school that meets the needs of our children and supports the future of Alpine. This is our chance to create something that will have a lasting positive impact for generations. And we're not just talking about it like a place where children will learn. We're talking about a place where our community will come closer together, that a place where we'll offer jobs, strengthens local businesses, and encouraging growth in ways that we can't fully yet imagine because there are a lot of unknowns. A school is the heart of any community, and by building one in here in Alpine, we lay the foundation for that vibrant, connected future. Yes, we must ensure the quality of the education that's being provided and address any concerns. But we also need to remember that this is more than just curriculum or legalities that we're talking about. It's our children, our families, our community's future. This land is the last remaining piece of infrastructure available to us, and we must use it to build something that will strengthen the fabric of our town for years to come. Members of the Town Council, what legacy do you wish to leave behind for the town of Alpine when you leave office? I can't think of a better legacy than a school which will serve as the heartbeat of this community, bringing us all together in a way that we've so desperately wanted for so long. I would have given my eye teeth to allow my 4 young children to attend a school in Alpine. So I ask you not to let the noise of division and legal concerns deter you from this incredible opportunity before us. Focus on what truly matters. Giving your children a school to call their own, keeping families together, not spread out between 4 schools, 3 schools in the valley, and turning Alpine back into the vibrant and self-sustaining community that we've always wanted it to become again. I wholeheartedly support the development of a school on this property and encourage all of us to come together and embrace this opportunity for the betterment of Alpine and its future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jenkins.
Richard Jenkins, longtime resident of Alpine, past town council, past planning and zoning, past mayor. I am proud of our community. I want to keep this totally upbeat. I appreciate, Mayor, your comments that this is the path we have at this time. That's very true. I really support people like Chris. Those awesome little discussions you just had there are positive, upbeat. And we have to be it on board because it's now or never. We're going to have a school or not going to have a school. What I like to see from lacking, maybe on the town council's part, is commitment. Okay, this discussion about the land, you're either in or you're out. You say you're in. I very much applaud that. But all the pressure is put on the board to come up with all the answers when this council should be begging and be so thankful that we have people willing to make this happen. We really need to be, I understand David's position. Are we in, are we out? We're going to make it happen or not make it happen. We just keep putting bigger roadblocks in there all the time. Be careful of that. Let's keep it moving positive. Let's go forward. Let's do success. It gets frustrating when you're bumping your head against the wall all the time. I'm surprised we've even kept our committees together through that. I didn't hear nearly so much discussion when years ago the town was willing to, with the state's funding, support a brewery in town. There wasn't a whole lot of discussion. There was no big business plan required. But it was a little bit different situation. But it was, go ahead, go for it. Here, we're not hearing that. We're hearing, we got to know this. The answers aren't there. We either moving forward or we're not. Let's move forward. We have to do that. The Alpine Fire Department, I've belonged to that for 40 years. Who's collecting the rent from that entity, even though it supports the whole area for 8 miles one way and 40 miles another way? Who's collecting the rent? We don't even ask that question, but we want to know who's collecting the rent for the town, for the school. This is a community. We have to stay together. We have to work together. We have to take the assets we have and make things happen. If you don't support a school in 100%, I just can't understand why we wouldn't be 100%. And we constantly, the whole legacy of our town is to build on what we have. That's how we built the community center, the fire department, the library, child development center, everything. The hospital started as nothing. And we built on it. And here we are trying to do the last major thing. Get behind it, make it happen. If it isn't exactly what you want, let's fix it. But we got to fix it as we go. As I've said before, we started the fire department with an old antique military vehicle parked out in the field. We started the ambulance service with a 58 Pontiac that we bought for $800. We now have $1 million fire truck sitting in a wonderful firehouse. We fixed it as we went. We built it. Don't tear it down, something that we're working to build. This town needs to build stuff. We're going to build a school. If it isn't exactly what you want, talk to the people involved. These are the powerful people. Let's work through it. But stay on track and be totally committed to what we have. It's not the town versus the school. It's the town building the school. We want you involved. We could go, this committee could go anywhere and build the school outside the town limits. Wouldn't matter. They could do it. We want the town involved. Excuse me?
Let's let him talk. You guys all had your opportunity.
I was quiet for your turn, so please. So anyway, get behind it, be committed, and move forward. Don't let anybody tear it apart.
Thanks, Richard.
Hello there, Joseph Payne, failed town council candidate and Alpine resident.
Active member of the community.
Thank you for saying that, Mayor. This is actually a pretty, I think, good segue, Mr. Jenkins. Like, the thing that I can't really get past is, Councilman Larson, when you read that communication and it said a public school needs public land, and yet the board will not be elected, and essentially it's kind of like we're forcing the board to have one person that has, like, I think the standards of like educational background that the town deems fit, but then they could sort of be like voted out over and over again. And it's like, understandably, like, not trying to like deliberately sabotage or like put a stumbling block. But I do think that that's quite strange, you know, just outright strange that it's a public school needs public land, but we don't deal with elected boards because they're hard. And then I think everything else I've thinking about has been fairly well, pardon me, fairly well covered. But also just the idea on its face that there's enough money to offer to buy this land from the town, and yet, it's just kind of wild to me. So that's it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah. Cheers.
All right. Any other? Yes, please.
Hi there, Megan Rumsey, Alpine resident. I'm sorry I interrupted you. I just feel like, this is such an important decision, so we do have absolutely every right to take our time and do our diligence. Many people have spoken out of turn. Dave, I can recall you holding up a red building of a Cleary shed of the school that was constructed in Cedar City, Utah, in which APA took part of an old livestock building and then built a school. And are you guys aware of APA's issues with lunchrooms? Do you know it? Can you speak to that at all?
This is public comment. Go ahead and offer whatever you've got to offer.
Okay, so APA has a pretty big problem with lunch. They typically put their buildings together and do not have resources for lunch. And that's one of the biggest areas of complaint for the children about not getting a nourishing meal at school, to the point that the food has been so bad that many kids go without food. And I can bring the information regarding that, but in Salt Lake, it's just a notorious problem that kids they're not allowed to microwave their food because they took the microwaves away and you have to be a certain age to use them. So kids are eating cold chicken nuggets, and it's like, those little things stack up and they do matter. The other thing that we all need to talk about, and Mr. Sanderson, I attempted to talk to you about this, we need to go back through the history of all the spurious and contentious litigation of APA. We can all agree that we want a school. Do we really have to agree right now that it has to be APA? Does it have to be APA? Because I see a consultant who's shaking his head, and I'd like to know, like right now you guys are telling us you're spending $25,000 a month. Well, I would say then that's already financial mismanagement. What do you need to possibly be spending $25,000 a month? Is it a salary for someone, and who's paying that? And are we already encumbered to that amount later on? Are we paying for that? We're going to find out. And then the other thing I'd like to know is, those of you who are here representing the school, can you raise your hands? So I'm talking the board, the consultant. Who lives in the boundaries of Alpine? Who is here for the school on the board? So you live in the taxable boundary of Alpine?
No, unfortunately, Alpine.
So that would just be a no.
You have an end.
Okay, so that would be a no. So you don't live in Alpine, is what we've established. So as far as the stakeholders that we keep defining in all of these meetings, and the consultants to the WCSAB kept talking about stakeholders, we already have some legal issues here where we can go into that terminology as it was defined and presented to us. As you know, all of the misinformation that has been presented. I'd ask Steve Funk, and I'm real curious why he's not here right now, but I guess I'll just leave that to public comment and have to find out. And I would just like to know, where are we going with this? Because what I see is we're creating more problems in division than solutions here. And a lot of it is hinging on the fact that we're hell-bent on this piece of property that people have made clear they do not. And you're coming in and telling us we need to be manufacturing positivity for you, otherwise we're going to be walled off from the process because we're not being positive enough for the Jenkinses. Well, we demand to be part of this because you guys already had a meeting in which you were putting your board together, and then we asked you to come to see SAB, told you guys that you needed to have representation from people who live in Alpine going forward. This has not happened, so I'm seeing some
Can
really...
you start to wind up your comments?
Yes,
Thank you.
most certainly.
Thank
I'm seeing some really bad faith dealings. I'm seeing some misrepresentations. I heard Dave Jenkins say that a school might be opening next fall. I can go back and listen to the recordings, but the misstatements pile up. And then I'd also like to know, right now, who's paying Jeff Doherty? So is this an ongoing thing in which he's paid every month? And then, Mr. Sanderson, if I might, I would like to get the statute, and I would like to get solid in writing information regarding public meetings in Wyoming, and then we can talk about that at one of the next sessions.
Why
Thank
don't you email me those questions, not directly to Mr. Sanderson, and then I'll make sure that you get the answers that you want.
Is there a reason why I cannot?
Because he actually represents town council, he doesn't represent you. So if you're looking for legal advice on certain things, then you need to hire your own attorney. But if you would like to ask town council to come up with some of the answers you're asking, then we'll be more than happy to look at that for you, but it needs to come through me.
I can put something together. And the other thing is can anyone raise their hands in this room if they're donating to the school? Mr. Jenkins, are you donating to the school?
I have.
Okay, so I find that an egregious conflict personally, and that's another thing we need to suss out, are all of the conflicts of interest, because it's like, Mr. Burchard, are we still going to be paying you for the town IT, but you're also going to have an interest in the school? So again, I'm sorry if this isn't positive enough for you, sir.
It's not positive at all.
I'll go ahead and sit down, but I have every right to raise valid concerns. Thank you, Chris. Do you live in Alpine?
Okay, thank you. Let's keep moving on. I think that other people want to have a chance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Any other public comment?
Hi, everyone. My name's Luke Astle. I'm a resident of Alpine, and I have a daughter who will be a child age, of school age here in a couple of years. I know that a lot of my comments, I think I've been to a few of these meetings, so I won't rehash a lot of things that's been said, but overall, I think that the town would benefit from a school, and I understand that it's been a thing in the works for many years, dating back to the early 2000s, if not before. I think even recently, this Lincoln County School District has said there's no funds available for a school anywhere else, which has canceled the Mercer study for any potential opportunity within any foreseeable future. So I understand, and I actually do appreciate all the diligence and the questions that are being brought up. I think it's important to hear everyone's opinion, and I think there's some validity in some of the things that I've heard today, but I think the importance of bringing the community together outweighs some of those things, and I think that we should work through those, and not saying that we should turn a blind eye to those, but I think that it's important to determine what we want in the long range for our community and what we envision for this community and our families. I think that someone had said earlier that now is the time to make a decision on this is the biggest decision the town's going to have probably in the foreseeable future, and it has had in years past. And I think that it'll shape kind of what this community will be. What will the residents of this town be? Will it be Airbnbs and vacation homes, or will we have homes with families in a bustling community and people, strive together and come together and help each other out and know each other? And what I've come to appreciate and love about this town, and I think that's what a school will bring. So I'm a advocate for the school, and I hope we can work through these issues and find a solution to bring a school, and I think that this location's perfect for that. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, counselors. I just wanted to say how...
And what's your name?
I'm Melinda Dorian.
Oh.
I am on the charter board, secretary. I just wanted to say that, this is watching Dave and the inaugural board climb Mount Everest, and to see the clouds parting, and to be standing here talking about transparency, which Councilorwoman Castillo, you have talked again and again about transparency. And I would like to propose that going forward, I know we have the February meeting set, but then possibly monthly we could have meetings going forward that the school, the charter school board can present, if that could possibly make it on the agenda. So we're able to address questions in a timely manner and have these work sessions with the public, I think is really important. So I just want to say thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I'm very glad to be on the board. And I'm coming for you.
Any other comments?
Shay Scafidi. I have lived in Alpine 20 years, and I've been on Alpine Parks and Rec, Alpine Public Education Committee. I ran for school board when Dave ran. I've volunteered the last 20 years. So I was Richard's neighbor back in the day. So as far as this was hugely helpful just to give all perspectives. I really hope we can't get stuck in this positive, negative. I think it's critical thinking. I think we're just trying to bring questions to the table. And one of the things for me, as I come on the town council in January, one, I always want to be educated to what's on the agenda and what decisions have to be made on behalf of the town. And so one of the things when Dave and I speak, I think the biggest thing, and I know there's a lot of moving parts, but kind of what we're working on, and I think maybe Eric alluded to it and what I'm trying to digest, if we have 90 kids, we have about a $1.53 million budget. If we have 290 kids, we have a $4.6 million budget. The dollar per year lease, what is the state giving? Because one of the things it seems like is the Wyoming State Charter Board is so new, it's like, what is the lease amount? And I know that may be based on square footage, but it would be nice if Mackenzie Williams and the State Charter Board, I think that's his last name, if they could give hard numbers for a budget. Because I do know with the USDA and the REDLG, I think, the Rural Economic Development Loan and Grant Program is very much about collateral, business plans, and financial documents. So I think the good part is all these questions relate back to a loan process that will not look at what ifs and give money to that. So I think those are dollar numbers that will be very helpful in deciding. Also, I just want to make it very clear, and I did this when town land was supposed to be sold to a private entity. We are dealing with roughly 5 acres. In my opinion, and I do these for banks in different places, we're about $4 million in land. 10 acres, we're probably at $8 to $9 million in land value based on current market structure. So I think those are things where if you feel like people are being negative, that is a large ticket number to just give to, and I hate to say it, it may be a public school.
Just for kids.
I know. And I still want the school. What's hard for me is I love the idea closer. One, the moratorium for charter schools ends in 2026, so another school could apply. Secondly, I hate to see an asphalt jungle on top of our current recreation area that so many people walk dogs, kids, we all recreate there. So what's hard for me to look at is, can it tuck, if we're gonna do it, tuck it closer to the road, things like that. Yeah, and then I think the traffic study, I pull out of here every day. So I'm gonna tell you, turning left is a party. So I just wanna bring that up. And I do think the student enrollment study, if you need grassroots, I will volunteer. I obviously knocked on not knocked, but I put a flyer on every house almost in Alpine. So I think that's part of it. I have given my life to this town as well, my time, my hours. And when we started this process for the Alpine Public Education Committee, we wanted what was best for our kids. And so I think there is a larger picture here, and we have to fill in the holes and the gaps, and that's our duty. So thank you, and I appreciate everything.
Any other comments? All right.
Sorry, Eric, and I'm not a resident of Alpine, I'm a resident of Star Valley Ranch. So maybe that gives me less credibility, I don't know, but I can't vote for you. I would say, and I'm not a plant for the school, I think a lot of the curriculum stuff is valid and everything, but I've heard a lot of talk about the business value of the land. And I think it's important to keep in mind, you're getting something for that value. It's not just putting a Dollar General there instead or whatever you want there wouldn't be an equal thing. You're not just a business as a city council or a city. You are providing public service and you're allocating the assets you have, which is this land, and you're getting something back. You're getting 300 students being taught. The money that pays for that comes from the state, so my tax dollars would help pay for that. The kids, from my understanding, there would be no fee for those kids, and that's why it's sort of a public school. It's not, the public's not in charge of the curriculum, but you do have a choice of not sending your kids there. If there's 300 kids that are willing to go there, is it such a bad thing for those families that believe in those type of values? And I'm honestly on the fence on some of it. I didn't go to college till late in life, but I did go back to Cal for education in geophysics. I believe a lot in education. And, you know, there's some questions, but I also know that I have the ability to also be an influence on my child. And what she learns during the day isn't the only influence on her. She also comes home to me, and I guarantee you she's going to have a pretty good science background living with me. So, I don't know. That's all I got to say. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate your comments being from outside the town as well.
Okay. Yep.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Justin Scott, Alpine resident. Just have a couple comments maybe to give you guys maybe just some advice on some of your numbers for enrollment. You know, there are 3 buses that travel through Alpine, so you could probably maybe just stop at that last stop before they leave Alpine and take a survey of how many K through 8th graders are leaving Alpine. So that might give you at least a general idea as to, okay, at least this might be the minimum or the maximum number of K through 8 students who live in Alpine who may go to this school. Certainly doesn't account for the kids who go up to Jackson or parents drive them through. So that might be a way to start to try and at least get an idea. Okay, is it 90? Is it 150? Is it 40? Because on my bus, there's barely 20 kids when they leave my neighborhood anyway. But that's not to say that parents don't drive them down there. So that's one thought maybe for that. 2, you mentioned bus service isn't provided within a mile of a school. Keep in mind the APA has no bus service. So we will have 300 cars coming, if this plan goes through, we'll have 300 cars coming into this neighborhood, possibly.
Right.
You might carpool, but you're going to have teachers, staff, and possibly 270 vehicles coming and going. So certainly keep that in mind, where some of these other public schools, the buses, certainly not at capacity, will drop off the children at those areas. So certainly, that is certainly a consideration that needs to be taken into account when we're talking about putting a school right next to a residential neighborhood. And that easement, certainly, yes, it is outside of the neighborhood, but that's not to say that you can't get through the neighborhood through some other roads. So just some suggestions on maybe trying to determine if you're going to have the amount of kids that you think you're going to have. Oh, and also, last thing to think about, we talked about that there is no bus service. So I wonder if you're expecting someone who lives, you know, down Creamery Road to drive their child to Alpine or put them on the bus to go to Etna or Thane. Because none of this right now addresses 9 through 12. I want everyone to remember that. This is K through 8. 7 and 8, yes, you go down to Afton, but 9 through 12 right now, that's really still a 35-mile commute. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Justin. All right. Last chance. Anybody else have any comments? And then we'll get out of here. Not to put pressure on anyone, but I want to make sure everyone had a chance. Well, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. You guys have been putting in so many hours, and all the community members for your thoughts. And I all I can say is we are, hopefully you understand that we're doing our due diligence. We're trying to make sure, like I said before, that we're doing what's best for the town of Alpine. I think there's a process that needs to happen to do that, but I think we're getting really close. And we feel like we're working well with you guys, or that's my feeling. So we'll make up for a lot of perceived lost time that we had over the past year or whatever, and we'll try to get this stuff nailed down as soon as we can. So anyways, if anyone in the public has any more questions, concerns that they want, you can email these guys. Their emails are available, or you can email us, and we'll make sure that they get it. So please feel free to reach out to us. And anyways, have a nice night, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no further business, I will adjourn this meeting.